It began with laughs and finished quietly. John Denver used to love having Joan Rivers on his show. He knew he could count on her when he needed someone to step in for him. She learned from him and was just as funny as he was. Many people saw her as the clear heir to his late-night empire. Things went very differently, though, because of one choice and one missed call. All of a sudden, the laughing stopped. The caller wasn't picked up, and her name was taken off the show's notes. What looked like what happens at work? Behind the scenes, it was personal. Carson didn't just kick her off the show. He took her out of his life. There was more going on between Johnny Carson and Joan Rivers than just a fight. After the breakup, everyone who watched late-night TV was different, and the show was split in two. During the Golden Age, faith was the basis for friendship. In the early 1960s, only guys could be funny. There were lots of bright lights, cigar smoke, and cocky people in the clubs. Not many women have ever had the chance to act, let alone become famous in front of millions of people. It had been years for Joan Rivers. She put on shows everywhere she could. There are coffee shops, hotel bars, and even small radio shows. But by 1965, she was worn out and broke. People didn't think a female stand-up comic could be funny, which made her work hard. Finally, one night she got the call that changed everything. She was asked to appear on The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. That was the dream of most comic book artists, the one ticket that would make everything better. Joan had no idea how much she needed it. On February 17, 1965, she took the stage, scared but ready. Everyone loved her, she was funny, and she always knew when to say something. When Carson was done, she smiled, turned to face the camera, and said the words that would change her life forever. No award or deal was as powerful as that one line. This girl is going to be talked about a lot. Joan Rivers went from being a little-known performer to a national star in just one night. The number of bookings she had doubled. Talent companies called her, and TV networks showed interest in her. But Johnny, who had given her that chance, was what mattered most to her. He was her friend, her protector, and her teacher. Carson wasn't sure who to trust, but he thought Joan was special. She was funny, brave, and out of the ordinary in all the right ways. Over the next 20 years, she became one of his most regular guests. John was out of town, so Joan was the host. It was the first time a woman had done it regularly. She didn't copy what he did. People looked up to her because she did things her own way, with a lot of drive, honesty, and a creative touch. Everyone loved watching her. She could hold people's attention, make fun of politicians, and silence famous people all at the same time. She wasn't just seen as another guest at the house. She was a family member of The Tonight Show. Behind the scenes, they became closer. Johnny often told the producers, "She gets it." Even though they admired each other, there was a thin line between them. Carson was the master of staying up late, so everyone always stayed close to him. It never occurred to Joan that she would break the rule. His trust had helped her build her job, and she planned to keep that trust. TV, on the other hand, changes even faster than celebrities. What started out as friendship and trust quickly turned into one of the worst betrayals in Hollywood history. The most that can be done. There is deception going on behind the scenes. Joan Rivers was more than just a guest star by the mid-1980s. People knew her name. She was on a lot of talk shows, and her comedy CDs were big hits. Theaters all over America were sold out. She was brave and funny, which made her stand out on TV. That accomplishment is mostly due to Johnny Carson. She had filled in for him as a guest host when he was away for 20 years, and was always there. Everyone loved her. Joan had good reason to think that she would be the best person to host The Tonight Show after Johnny left, and NBC executives valued her opinion. On the other hand, TV can be mean. In 1985, there were rumors in the business world that NBC was secretly looking for someone to replace Carson. When Joan found out about the talks, her name wasn't even brought up. She was shocked. She hoped that after years of being loyal, they would at least talk. "I felt hurt because I thought I was part of the family," she said. Carson might have thought that as long as she kept her cool. The deal changed everything. Fox, a new business trying to make a name for itself, called Joan and offered her their own late-night show. The show was set to air after The Tonight Show. It would be the first time in history for a woman to host her own national talk show. In her shoes, she would never pass up a chance like this. Joan didn't want Johnny to be surprised, though. She planned for her to tell him. She still wasn't sure, so she didn't do it. She was afraid that he would get angry and take it personally. She put off the call because of this. Carson also didn't hear from Joan after the Hollywood Reporter told everyone about it. He heard about it in the news. His eyes were filled with anger. The man who brought her to America in the first place thought she was lying about her plans. He didn't yell. He didn't answer back. He just hung up. After that, he never saw Joan Rivers again. During the next few weeks, the sentence was given quickly and was final. He told her she couldn't go on The Tonight Show. Her name was taken out of NBC's ads and any upcoming retrospectives. Records of her acting parts were kept secret for many years. She didn't seem to have ever been in Carson's world. Carson never told the press what happened next. He didn't say anything bad about her. He wouldn't say anything about her. There was no sound. This is the worst insult ever. It was terrible for Joan. She sent him a letter every year for their anniversary, birthday, and even Christmas. At the end of every letter, the same plea for peace could be seen. But Johnny didn't answer. Joan took that pain with her for the rest of her life. Someone once asked her, "He was like a father to me." When he turned away, it felt like death. What started out as a mentorship ended up sending them away. Also, being sent away in Hollywood is a permanent state. How a ripple turns out. Carson's anger was taken care of by others. Besides Joan Rivers' ban, there were other times. It was part of a bigger plan. Many people loved Johnny Carson because he was so charming. But there was a man who wanted full power over his realm hiding behind that calm and friendly exterior. He worked on The Tonight Show. In addition, anyone who even slightly upset the balance was often taken away quietly. Impressionist artist Rich Little was one of the first people to notice that. People used to call him the man of 1,000 voices. He was on The Tonight Show for a long time. He could sound like everyone, like Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, and, of course, Johnny Carson. Carson first found the jokes funny. It was too easy for Little to copy him. He laughed. It wasn't a joke, though, when no one was around. Carson hated being made fun of, even if it was just a joke. For some reason, Little stopped getting requests to be on the show, even though his act was getting better and better known. Later, directors said that his work had become too similar. However, the people who worked on it said it was easy. It was enough for Johnny. Carson would not like you again if he lost his like. Then there was Dana Carvey, who was on Saturday Night Live. This picture of him as Carson went popular all over the country because of his famous squint, pursed lips, and "I didn't know that" look. At the start of the 1990s, Carvey had Johnny on The Tonight Show to honor him. He thought Johnny would enjoy it. Instead, Carson's smile went away as soon as Carvey became his image. He didn't tell him off. He didn't say anything. But after that night, no one ever asked her again. When it came to late-night TV, silence was the worst thing. People who were funny and didn't try to upset him had to follow his rules. In one of his early shows, Howie Mandel used a big stuffed tiger as a joke to make people laugh. Carson didn't think it was funny because he hated being shocked. Mandel later found out that he had been quietly taken out of the show after the embarrassing ending. There were no official announcements or limits. There were just no more calls. It wasn't just for artists either. Lola Falana was a beautiful singer and dancer who had been coming to Las Vegas for years. People called her the First Lady of Las Vegas. But one night in the late 1970s, she was honest about how black people are treated unfairly in the entertainment business. He didn't like how he felt about it, even though it was a real and powerful moment. After that, Lola was never booked again, and the talk was never shown on TV again. A lot of famous people saw The Tonight Show as more than just a job. It was possible for me to keep my job. A national tour, a record deal, or a movie deal could all come from one act. But if Johnny Carson doesn't like it, those goals could die just as fast. In Hollywood, everyone knew the rules, even if they weren't written down or talked about in public. Carson was the only person who really wanted you. Because of this, people felt a strange mix of fear and respect. People would pay more attention, laugh more, and never stop his beat. They knew that the person who had taken them away could also make them famous. The power of The Tonight Show was both a good and a bad thing for Joan Rivers and the hosts who came after her. There was Wayne Newton, the fight, and the fight in Las Vegas. Not all of the impact was quiet. A lot of people in Hollywood talked a lot about the fight between Johnny Carson and Wayne Newton in the 1980s. When they first met, they were friends. They were both great singers and looked great. Newton came often. He was a beautiful singer who could charm any crowd. Everything changed when he beat Carson's bid for the Aladdin Hotel in Las Vegas. It became personal from what it should have been business. Carson started to make fun of Newton during his speech. The jokes weren't just meant to make people laugh. They were meant to hurt Newton's voice, character, and even sexuality. Newton didn't laugh like everyone else in the room. He put up with it in silence for months until he had enough. Newton is said to have stomped into NBC's Burbank studio, gone straight to Carson's office, and challenged him there. He did not bring any cameras or guards. He only brought his anger with him. After that, everyone agrees that the joke stopped, but everyone has a different story about what was said. The friendship ended. Newton was never asked to come back to The Tonight Show, not as an excuse or a reason to get together. Carson didn't say anything, but his silence said a lot. It was yet another sign that he had complete power over everything. Even the most famous people could quickly disappear if they make a bad choice or disobey the rules. Carson really wanted to be in charge. It was for his friends. No one wanted their name to be the next one to be quietly taken off. Strong American stage. The rules that aren't talked about on The Tonight Show. In the late 1980s, Johnny Carson was very popular. There were things besides TV on The Tonight Show. It was a country. One show could be the start of a career. A single mistake could kill someone. Carson never had to yell at other people or tell them they couldn't do something. The fact that he did not say anything was enough. Guests found out behind the scenes that there were unwritten rules. Don't be better than the host or forget whose stage you were on. Those rules were easy to understand for most people. Some people, like Wayne Newton, Rich Little, and Joan Rivers, lost their careers because of them. Even after Carson stopped working in 1992, his impact on late-night TV was still felt. He showed comedians like Jay Leno and David Letterman how to use his techniques, time them right, plan their shows, and stay in charge. But they also took his warnings into account. He was the toughest person who had ever lived. Carson's quiet stayed with people who had lost his favor. Joan Rivers never went back to the show. Dana Carvey never made things right. Lassa Falana Lola did not come back. Joan was the kind of person who always tried again. Newton is one of the people who left for good. The stories kept being told for years after Carson's death in 2005. Folks talked about a man whose job could be saved or lost with just one nod. Everyone thought of him as the king of late nights. He was the guard who wouldn't let anyone through. The past and the sadness. It was clear that Johnny Carson was smart. He kept people up late for 30 years. He helped a number of comedians and musicians get their start. But he also stopped people from telling stories and broke up bonds. He and Joan Rivers never talked again. Before he passed away, "You didn't mean to bother me," when she said, "I'd do anything to fix it." It was asthma that killed Carson in 2005. Joan said she cried so hard over the constant silence that it was like someone important had died. And that's the sad part of it all. Fans of the show were thrilled, but the people who worked behind the scenes were in pain. Sparkles, laughs, applause, and a strong but quiet warning were all on The Tonight Show. That fame comes with a cost. Late-night shows these days are acting like Johnny Carson by joking around and talking freely. But that history hides a story of loyalty, dishonesty, and unwritten rules. Because Joan Rivers broke one of them, she was sent away. Her story is still one of the most painful things to see on TV because it shows that sometimes the price of success is silence instead of failure. Every woman who came after Joan Rivers did so because she was brave enough to go it alone, even if she never went back to The Tonight Show. That made people dislike her even more. Something new began. Johnny Carson spoke up and cut her off. Do you think he did the right thing or went too far? Please write what you think in the area below. If you like reading about Hollywood stories that haven't been shared, Don't forget to like, follow, and turn on notifications. Next time, we'll have more things to tell you.